Hey everyone, Kuya here. I just reached Diamond and I wanted to share my formation with you. I'm not claiming this is the best formation ever, but I did end up going 19-0 with this. I'm guessing I'm doing something right. Before we start, for those non-believers, here's a clip of me getting the 10 ranked wins in a row quest after winning against this person whose name I can't pronounce. Now here's my match history until the match against him, which gives a total of 19 wins and 0 losses. Anyways, it'll take too long to show you all of the games, so instead I'll be showing you my formation, my reasoning for each monster and placements, and their skill stones and runes. Then I'll replay my last 3 matches that got me to Diamond, and I'll analyze the gameplay, what I did, and what the opponent did, and finally what both of us could have done better. Hope you enjoyed the video. Alright, here's the formation that got me my 19-0 and got me to Diamond. As you can see, nothing too high level, only between levels 7 and 8, since I haven't spent any money on this game yet. However, I did get lucky and I summoned both Wusa and Poseidon twice here, allowing me to get them to level 8. If you want to hear my explanation and runes for each of these monsters, I explain them at the end of the video. For now, let's move on to the matches. Alright, let's get started with the first match. So what I like to do is I like to look at the enemy team composition. First I want to look at how many fire units they have, because if they have a lot of fire units then there's no point in spending 6 mana for Lucian, since he is countered by fire units. Then the second thing I like to look at is how many units they have that can counter Beretta. It looks like here it's pretty much just Eleanor, so I know that at least for this match I would want to focus more on Beretta, and they do have 3 fire units, so it's not too bad. I can still use my Lucian here. Alright, so the enemy made a mistake here. He used an AoE skill and one that actually debuffs you while I still had my immunity up, so that was a complete waste. And because I had the mana advantage, I figured I'd go ahead and just throw out the Lucian amp there. Alright, so at this point I know that since Eleanor's next, there's no way they can remove the debuffs unless they have a skill, so I just went ahead and threw out my Beretta skill there. And then notice how I countered the Doomsday here with Wusa. So with Wusa is such a strong character if you use him correctly. Basically you only want to use him as a counter. You'd never want to initiate with him. He can stop so many AoE skills. He's good against Lucian, he's good against Beretta because of his immunity plus his shield. He just allows you to tank so much damage. Alright, so I noticed that, so I had 2 options, either to transfer or to cleanse. I figured I'd go ahead and transfer it because that, unless they had anything, it would be harder for them to win against me. Now here I'm just throwing dots and stuff like that, but if you notice, I'm only throwing out counters because I'm ahead in units. If you're ahead in units, you should not be using any skills unless the enemy uses his skills. You only want to be countering, because with since you have more units, that means that even just with basic attacks alone, you will end up winning. But if you throw the attack first and the enemy throws a counter that stops you from using that skill or kills you, or anything like that, it could actually turn the tide of the battle. So remember that only use your skills if as a counter if you're ahead in units. Alright, on to the next match. So we're against 94 Houdini. 2942, 2 more matches to go. So here I noticed that they actually don't have that many fire units, but they do have Eleanor, and they do have the water fairy. Is her name Elucia? Now they do have a bunch of dots themselves. They have Beretta and they have Rika, so that's something to pay attention to. They also have Poseidon, so I also pay attention to all of the units that I can counter with Wusa with. So there's 3 units right there, and I was able to counter Poseidon's skill right there, which is huge for me because Poseidon's skill was completely useless that round. And because of that, I was able to throw out a safe amplification. Sorry, I forgot his skill. Lucian, whatever, Lucian skill. I also like to only counter with Lucian skill because the enemy team likes to throw a. There's a lot of skills that can stun or stop Lucian from using his skill, and since it's 6 mana, it's so good for the enemy team if they end up stopping your Lucian. Here I countered the Poseidon with my Lapis, killing him, so that completely negated his skill. So I knew that I was ahead in mana here and I was doing a good job. And so once again I throw out another amputation magic to counter the Beretta. I figured here I can play safe. I decided not to use anything here. I didn't think my Poseidon's 3 would be that useful. Okay, so that transfer was actually very dangerous, and I got scared from that point on because they have Kamoon, and I know that with Kamoon he might actually be able to counter to clutch this. If you notice my Lapis is really low in HP, so if she dies, I was afraid that Kamoon was gonna be able to clutch. Right, so once again, if you're ahead in units, only use skills to counter. Don't initiate anything here. I'm just hovering Lapis here because I know that she'll deal the most damage to the Kamoon. And Kamoon is such... So, if you didn't know this before, Lapis and Kamoon are both, in my opinion, S tier monsters in the slot 8. They're so good at throwing out 1v4, 1v5 clutches. Just because of their skill, they deal a bunch of damage and they heal. And Lapis doesn't heal, but she gets a shield, so she's able to sustain herself while healing. While dealing damage. If you look here, I have 6 units, but this Kamoon, who's only level 6, is able to put up a fight against my units. So here I'm just countering whenever he attacks, doing my best to reduce the amount of damage that that the Kamoon's dealing, trying to dot him to death. But his the amount of HP he regens is just incredible. It gets really hard, and I think it's only due to the exhaustion that I end up winning here. So this is nice. I have Wusa in slot 5, which means that with his shield and because it's fire versus water, he'll deal less damage. He'll more chances of glancing, which means that he'll be able to heal less, and that's actually what ended up getting me the win. If my Lapis died earlier in the round, or if my Wusa wasn't there, he definitely could have just clutched the game. So that's something to look into. Alright, let's get started with match number 3. So this is the very last match. I'm against Zemo. This determines whether I reach Diamond or not. He is at 2,998. Hopefully he was Diamond before this, otherwise he just lost it because I did end up winning this match. Alright, let's see what happens here. Right, so I'm already hovering Wusa here. There you go. As soon as I did this, I countered with the Wusa. His 4 mana was completely useless. I thought I win this. Right? That's how strong countering is in this game. Alright, so he uses his ice shield, which is weird because I had immunity up, so he wasn't gonna be freezing anyone anyways. Alright, here I noticed that my Ramagos is pretty low HP. I figured I'd go ahead and throw out his skill just to get a little bit of numbers advantage on the board. Alright, so this is perfect. I have transfer coming up. I have the slow and the dot damage, so I went ahead and threw that at them. And that's just huge momentum. If you imagine transfer, it's only one mana skill, and you were able to just completely turn the tides around. Right here, I was hoping that I could throw my Lucian skill before the anti-crit, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. Once again, with Wusa, I'm able to counter and completely negated Poseidon's skill. So yeah, if you have Wusa, make sure you only counter with him. The enemy will know not to use any skills, AoE skills, if you've used your Wusa before. Alright, so I'm hovering with my cleanse here. As soon as he throws his dot damage, I immediately cleanse so that I don't get any damage off. He does his acceleration, I'll do it too. We need to make sure that we're at least on par with mana. So I'm hovering my Wusa here, and once again I stop his Poseidon. His Poseidon is completely useless this game. He's thrown 3 Decelerations, and every single time I was able to counter it. Right here I counter his Flaming Thunder with my Amputation magic, and at this point it's 4 versus 6 and I'm completely ahead. So once again, I'm not throwing out any abilities unless the enemy throws one first. Always go for the counter if you're ahead in monsters. Alright, and that's game. And because of that, I reach Diamond. Alright, Diamond 5. And I believe at this point that's in the top 1%. So that's a pretty nice achievement. And for reaching Diamond 5, you get a lot of cards and crystals, so I'm able to do a 10 summon here. I don't remember who I got. Oh, okay. This is perfect. I got another Wusa, which means I only need one more Wusa to get him to level 9, making him even stronger. Alright, so here I'm just opening my opening my achievements and just getting my my crystals and getting ready for my 10 bomb. Alright, here we go. Let's see what we get. Okay, so because of that animation, I know that I got a legendary, and who do I get? I got Camilla, and I was so excited for this because I didn't have one before, and I wanted her to combo with Lucian. And if you look there, I also got a Lucian piece that is enough to get me to level 8, which will make my Lucian even stronger. Alright, now let's go through the formation in more details. Starting from slot 1, it is none other than Ramagos. Or if you played Sky Arena, he's nicknamed Rama God. Honestly, he's nothing too special in this formation. He's a beefy guy that can deal some damage with his skill. Although at this elo, he's predictable, so more often than not, I just let him die. I have him on energy runes, and to be as beefy as possible, and I have the skill stone that makes his clean shot hurt even more. Then in slot 2, it's Poseidon, the Sea Emperor. Now I like him because he applies a decrease in the opponent's mana regen, meaning less abilities being used. Then he's got a nice chunk of HP, so he works well in the front line, and I have him on energy runes to make him even harder to kill. If you look here, I got 700 HP, and my energy runes aren't even that good. And then in slot 3, we have Bernard. So Poseidon slows down the opponent's mana regen. Then if we pair that with Bernard, who speeds up my mana regen, with this combo I produce a lot more mana than Yemi, so they can't keep up with all of the skills. I have him in slot 3 because if you think about it, late game he's pretty useless. I have him on energy runes with the skill stone stuff, with the skill stone that buffs the time of his acceleration. Finally, on the last slot of the front line, we have Shannon. So honestly, I just had her in here to make Lucian hurt even more, but now that I think about it, Megan might be even better. Megan has attack up 2, and she can combo her acceleration with Bernard to reach acceleration 3 and give even more mana. But then again, without Megan, you lose the def up 2 bonus, which is 50% defense. So feel free to test out who you prefer here. I have her on energy runes with the normal skill stone, increasing duration of her skill. Next, we reach the back line. The first slot of the back line is Wusa, the Pioneer. When used correctly, he is the MVP of the team. His shield is so good against Lucian, and his immunity is really good against Beretta and pretty much any other AoE debuffs. Never initiate with his skill, always use it to counter. I have him on Swift to have his skill the same cost as Beretta early game to counter any cheeky early Beretta users. You could also put him on Energy since his shield is based off of his max HP. In slot 6, we have Beretta the Sylph. Everyone's favorite, to the point that my alliance is actually only filled with players requesting Beretta. Only use it as a counter or when the enemy can't use an immunity to counter Beretta. I have him on energy runes since people like to target the backline these days, which with as much focus on accuracy as possible to increase the chances of landing those dots. You can see I have 8% accuracy here, but hopefully with better runes I'll be able to increase that even more. In slot 7, we have Lucian the Joker. Now, if you've ever played Sky Arena, you know that he's everyone's favorite, and I think that might happen in Lost Centuria as well. I have him on Fatal Runes, focusing on attack, crit rate, and crit damage to maximize his damage. Finally, for slot 8, we have Lapis, the Magic Knight. Now, if you don't have Lapis or Kamoon in your slot 8, you should do it immediately. These two characters are amazing in slot 8 because they're able to potentially clutch a 1v4 since they deal damage and heal or shield. By putting them in slot 8, you're making sure that they survive as long as possible to be god tier in the late game. Now I have her on Blade to increase her chances of dealing crit damage and growing her shield even more. Then the skills. I have Spoil to help Beretta dot the team to death. I love the skill because you actually can't counter before it with immunity. You know that thing I was talking about where if the enemy uses Beretta, you can counter with Wusa? Well, if you use Spoil first, you can't actually counter first with Wusa. No matter how fast your reaction is, the Spoil will go first and then the Wusa will go next. So I love having Spoil there. And then the next skill we have is Transfer. So Beretta's love, Beretta's life. That's the current situation of the meta. For only 1 mana, I can immediately return the enemy Beretta's dots and turn the tide of the game. Now, another good thing about this transfer is that once Rika's spell has landed on your monsters, this is actually the only viable counter to that by giving the debuff back to Rika, because if you cleanse it, then it ends up stunning you instead and dealing a bunch of damage. Alright, finally, the last skill is Soul Cleanse. So, did I say Beretta was good? Well, this counters her. This helps heal and remove any debuffs on my monsters. Alright, that is it for my formation. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. I've released other Lost Centuria content, check them out if you haven't yet. Anyways, that is it for today. I'll see you guys next time.